Sir George Martin was an English record producer, arranger, composer, conductor, audio engineer, and musician who lived from 1926 until 2016. The band's trusty and devoted producer, George Martin, is the real fifth Beatle. Throughout the band's studio life, Martin acted as an excellent taskmaster, friend, and father figure. He molded their songs in ways that made them difficult to forget. By picking up an instrument or just feeding their curiosity and converting their abstract musical visions into reality, he played with the Beatles in every meaning of the term. Today, we'll discuss George Martin's feelings when he initially signed the band. Please enjoy the video and subscribe to our channel. George Martin is the fifth Beatle, not by chance, but because of his relationship with the other Beatles and his knowledge and ingenuity. Because they had a tight relationship with Martin, who helped them explore the boundaries of classic rock and pop music, the album Revolver symbolizes a turning point for the band, as they shifted from entertainers to actual studio artists. Martin was also present when a speaker attached to a microphone was inserted inside a Hammond organ for the first time to generate John Lennon's unique and raw vocal sound for the song. George was a part of many tiny things that the Beatles were the first to do. The orchestral rendition of the Beatles' music was George Martin's last intentional gift to the world of music. He invited his buddies, including Robin Williams, Phil Collins, and Jim Carrey. He created fascinating and distinct renditions of Beatles songs that may not have gotten a fair spin or listen compared to other significant successes. George Martin, McCartney once observed, made an indelible impact on my psyche and the history of British music. He was the most giving, bright, and musical guy I've ever met. Martin's son posted a video of Martin chatting to his granddaughter about the Beatles on Twitter, and Giles had this to say: "I don't normally share anything personal, but this my dad from a while back, explaining to my daughter he signed the Beatles. Ordinary people do extraordinary things. Great decisions are made for the simplest reasons. I figured if I liked them this much, other people might too." Giles Martin, son of George Martin. George Martin is a titan in the music industry. He is also a musician and has short hair. Regardless, he's a rock band recorder. So said John Lennon in the sleeve notes for the Beatles' instrumental album Off the Beatle Track, released in 1964. John Lennon wrote the sleeve notes for Off the Beatle Track, a collection of tracks released by their soon-to-be famous producer. Martin, who died at the age of 90 on Sunday night, March 8th, was the one who signed the Beatles when no one else would, who consistently encouraged them to push their musical limits, and who wrote and played on many of their most memorable songs. His initial impressions of the band. The producer talks about how he first met the Beatles and what he thought of them when they flew from Liverpool to London to visit him in the video released on Twitter. When hearing about the Fab Four, he is overheard commenting, "Well, that's a ridiculous name, for a start. I met them in London, and when I listened, it was fine, but it wasn't amazing." He said of his decision to give them a chance. "But it was when I began to get to know them that the magic happened because they were wonderful people. They were humorous, extremely clever, and the type of people you love to be with." He concluded, "If I feel this way about them, other people will feel this way." I reasoned. As a result, they should be fashionable. Sid Coleman of Ardmore and Beechwood phoned Martin and informed him about Brian Epstein, the manager of a band he had met. Martin could be interested in the group, he reasoned. Martin set up a meeting with Brian Epstein on February 13, 1962, after receiving a phone call from Coleman. Martin listened to a Decca recording and believed Epstein's band was very unpromising, while he enjoyed the sound of Lennon and McCartney singing. Martin was charmed by Epstein's excitement and decided to sign the unknown Beatles to a recording deal without seeing them or hearing them perform live, after another meeting with him on May 9th at EMI Studios in London. However, the deal was not what it looked, since Martin refused to sign it until he heard an audition. On June 6, 1962, the Beatles auditioned for Martin in EMI's Studio 3. Martin, who was not there for the recording, listened to 4 tracks that Ron Richards and his engineer, Norman Smith, recorded. However, the conclusion was not encouraging, with Richards criticizing Pete Best's drumming and Martin dismissing their original tunes. "I don't like your tie," George Harrison said when Martin asked the individual Beatles if there was anything they didn't like. According to Smith, that was the turning point, when John Lennon and Paul McCartney joined in with jokes and comedic wordplay, making Martin think he should sign them to a contract only for their wit. Especially though they had nothing behind them, they were still irreverent, even in those eras, which I enjoyed. George recalled in an interview, I enjoy a little bit of disobedience and people, you know. I also appreciate their sense of humor. After all, that was also my primary source of income, and I suppose they loved what I was doing with Peter Sellers and the Thugs. No, I felt they had incredible charm, and I believed it would be enough to sell them. We gave a decent audition. It's not looking good. Our drummer, on the other hand, was something he despised. I also advised purchasing a sign. That's fine if we don't do the next session, because I don't want to interfere with the Beatles and what you're doing with them. But I'll give the drummer, which we began to believe we required, contribution to the band. His first contributions to the band were on September 4th, 1962, when they recorded How Do You Do It, heavily modified by the Beatles, which Martin thought would be a surefire hit, even though Lennon and McCartney did not want to release it because it was not one of their compositions or styles. Martin was right. Jerry and the Peacemakers version, which Martin produced, stayed at #1 for 3 weeks in April 1963 until being supplanted by the Beatles' From Me to You. The Beatles recorded Love Me Do on September 11th, 1962, with session drummer Andy White on drums. Ringo Starr was requested to play the tambourine and maracas, and while he did so, he was not delighted. A September 4th version with Starr on drums was released on the British single due to an EMI library error. After that, the tape was destroyed, and the September 11th recording with Andy White on drums was used for all subsequent releases. Martin's formal musical knowledge helped bridge the gap between the Beatles' raw talent and the sound that set them apart from other bands that ultimately propelled them to fame. Martin wrote or performed the majority of the Beatles' symphonic arrangements and orchestrations, as well as regular piano parts on the early songs in partnership with the less musically talented band. Despite McCartney's initial resistance, Martin suggested that Yesterday be accompanied by a string quartet. Martin performed the tune in the style of Bach to demonstrate the many voicings accessible to McCartney. Another example is the song Penny Lane, which included a piccolo trumpet solo that McCartney requested after hearing it on a BBC broadcast. He was responsible for the sped-up piano solo on In My Life, the string quartet score on Yesterday, the entire jaw-dropping backing track and orchestral coda on I Am the Walrus. As a result, he should be referred to as the fifth Beatle. Working on the Beyond the Fringe cast album in 1961, which starred Peter Cook, Dudley Moore, Alan Bennett, and Jonathan Miller, George got his first big break as producer. Pop music piqued his interest as well. However, after loathing one of Tommy Steele's shows at London's legendary Two Eyes coffee shop, probably the worst thing I've ever done, he passed on signing him. On February 13, 1962, fate intervened when the two men were acquainted by a mutual acquaintance of the Beatles' manager, Brian Epstein. The rest, as they say, is history. Martin's tense relationship with Ringo Starr, who played on the Beatles' debut single, Love Me Do, his suggestion that Lennon and McCartney speed up the recording of Please Please Me, and the subsequent accurate declaration, "Gentlemen, you have just made your first #1 record." On And I Love Her, he used echo for the first time, A Hard Day's Night's opening chord, A Day in the Life's concluding chord. On Penny Lane, he used the piccolo trumpet. On Eleanor Rigby, he used a straight edge, Hitchcock-influenced soundtrack I Am the Walrus has a strange backing track. Turning acoustic, Martin and engineer Jeff Emmerich put out one of the most amazing pop cuts at the 1-minute mark, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite's thrilling soundscapes, putting together Tomorrow Never Knows from its author's soaring thoughts. Martin's contributions to the Beatles' legacy are extensive and varied, and he does it pleasantly and occasionally astonishingly. He took their already wonderful songs and made them much better. These were George Martin's initial comments after meeting the band. The band began to develop and acquire recognition shortly after his arrival, and Martin stated that they should be renowned. George sure was a father-like figure for the band members and worked as a lucky charm for them as they gained peak through his hard work. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please like and subscribe to our channel for more such videos. I look forward to seeing you at the next one.